guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new IDontWorkHereLady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first one is titled, I delivered pizza and got falsely accused of working for a crime syndicate. I never mistook this job for low risk, but I never imagined it could potentially get me thrown in jail. We got a pretty sketchy delivery call at late hour. Our FOH is constantly slammed with everyone desperate to eat at a table again now that the vaccine's out, and they were in the weeds, so I grabbed the phone. Before I could even finish our standard greeting, the guy just goes, "Yeah, it's Mac. I'm ordering a pizza." I'm not much for small talk either, so I'm rolling with it, like, "Good for you, Mac. Pick up or delivery?" You know, just rattling off the standard questions. He answered the first few, but he seemed hesitant or confused. He argued with some other guy behind him for a sec, then got back on the line and ordered like normal, as though none of the preceding stuff had even happened. Whatever. I caught his delivery and I went. It was a standard large pizza, no toppings, no extras. They were going to pay cash. I pull up, and it's a scary, rundown, sparsely populated apartment complex. Mostly broke college students in there now though, so I wasn't too concerned or anything. I get to the door, and when I knock it eases open a bit. This didn't seem like the ideal neighborhood to keep your door unlocked, but not my business. I called in, "Hey, pizza." There was no response. I called a little louder, "Got your pizza out here." And an alarmed voice from inside was like, "SSHHH, just come in." No. I get that request weirdly a lot, like everyone from sketchy apartment bros to suburban soccer moms asking me to bring the pizza to the dinner table because they're busy. Some people even pulled this during the pandemic. But it's a long-standing company policy, a damn good one, that entering the home for any reason whatsoever is a hard no. So I said back, "Can't do that. But I can leave it out here if you don't want to come to the door. Just need payment first." There was a silence and some shuffling, and then the door shut and locked. And the guy was like, "What do you mean payment first? That's not what we agreed on." Through the closed door. I was standing there wondering if this was the first pizza this man had ever ordered in his life. Because payment first is basically implied, right? But I'm not looking for any confrontations or trying to be in butthole, so I just tell him, "Yeah, so our store policy is payment first." And he erupts, screaming, "That's not what Mario and I discussed." So then I thought maybe he was trying to pull some kind of scam on us because nobody at our store is named Mario, and I'm the one who took this order, so I know what was discussed. I decided if they weren't going to pay, I'd made a reasonable attempt to deliver, and I could safely head out now. As I'm preparing to do so, another guy, looking back now, I realize he didn't even have a box, walks very confidently up to the door, pounds on it like a heavy bag, and grunts, "Pizza's here." I didn't know if this dude in the apartment had ordered two identical pizzas from different shops, or if our pizza had taken long enough that he thought we weren't coming and called someone else, or I had the wrong apartment or what. But it was weird enough that I decided to just go. Especially because pizza guy number 2 was looking at me with a real intense stare. Way more malice than I'd ever be able to muster on behalf of defending the turf for our joint's pies. He said something like, "Can I help you?" or "Wrong apartment," or something along the lines of a cordial go the duck away. But I was already on my way out and didn't really process it. I went back to the shop, told the story to the chef. We laughed and guessed at what it could have been to drive this man to order 2 pizzas at once. I didn't think about it again for several weeks. Those several weeks later, I was in the shop and a couple cops walk in. Not in uniform, but they had badges. They asked me if I'd been at such and such apartment complex on such and such day, and I was like, "That was weeks ago. I have no idea where I was." So they were all like, "In that case, you wouldn't mind coming down to talk to us about what you do remember." But I was like, "Really, nothing." And they said, "Well, that's fine. Let's talk anyways and see if there's something you might not realize is relevant that comes back to you." And all this stuff prodding me. I told them, "I'm working right now, but I can come later next week maybe." But they were really insistent, which should have set off some flags in hindsight. They were like, "Well, this is a really pressing matter, and we'd appreciate if you came in right now. We'll explain it to your boss so there won't be any problems. You'll really be helping us out." Their not being able to chat to me at work should have been the first red flag. but I knew I had not done anything illegal, so it didn't cross my mind that I could be in any sort of trouble or have a reason to worry. Especially because when I got to the police precinct, everyone was extremely friendly, like I was actually doing them a favor. They didn't throw me in a cell or try to intimidate me or anything. They brought me in a nice, air-conditioned conference room and gave me a comfortable chair and asked if I wanted anything to drink, and really just kind of shot the crap with me for 20-30 minutes. To this day, still confused about this. I think they even offered to order food if I remember right. I declined even the most basic offers because I was anxious to get back to my shift. Didn't need my coworkers getting any wrong ideas. I played along and made nice because they did get the okay from my boss to go as long as I needed. But in the back of my mind, I was like, didn't you say this was urgent? They're running short-staffed at work just so we can trade hot takes on the College Baseball World Series. Eventually, though, and I think they were trying to be subtle, but they definitely weren't, they shifted to asking me about what they really brought me in to talk about. They asked me about if I'd made a delivery to the apartment complex, and I'd obviously racked my brain between when the cops first arrived and then, so I told them actually I had. That I wasn't sure if it was exactly the day they were quoting me, but it was around then. I figured they'd ask about the delivery, but didn't want to get ahead of their questions. I figured a brain dump of information would make me come off as guilty. Plus, I didn't want to accidentally tell them more than they were expecting to hear and land myself there longer. But instead of asking, like, any of the questions I expected they'd ask, they said, "And how long had you known the guys you were delivering to?" Kind of confused, I responded, I didn't. I could see that my answer disappointed them, but it was the truth. They collected themselves pretty quickly, though. There were two detectives, the same two who'd come for me in the store, and one kept insisting on the facts as they saw them, and the other kept trying to bend things in my favor. So the bend guy was like, okay, sure. Not like y'all are best friends or anything, but you at least knew them as customers, right? I wasn't sure what knew them as customers was supposed to mean, because to me, it was synonymous with not knowing them. So I said no. They changed topics. They asked how long the delivery had been planned for. I told them everything had to be ordered same day, unless it was 4 or more pies, and I didn't remember exactly when they called, but per store policy, wouldn't have been more than an hour before it was delivered. Probably sooner, based on where they were relative to the store. We went back and forth like this for way longer than I was anticipating. Them asking me questions that seemed to imply I knew something. Me feeling super confused and giving them visibly disappointing answers, reminding them I knew nothing. Eventually they seemed pretty frustrated and they were basically like, "Stop lying to us, man. Cut the crap. Your friends rolled on you. It's done." And I'm sitting here thinking, I have friends. But of course, in all seriousness, I was shocked by the change of tone because I had no clue what they were talking about. And I told them so. And they were both like, "Come on, man, you're just embarrassing yourself at this point." With one trying to reassure me that if I just told them what I knew they could still help me, and the other saying I was too stupid to seize this last chance. Well, no reason to sit around and be spoken to like that. I got up to leave. Before I knew what was happening, I was being Mirandized. It was like a horror movie nightmare playing out in slow motion in front of my eyes. So I stopped with "I want you to know that I want to get back to work, but I'm gonna be chill out of courtesy" demeanor, and lost my crap at that point. I kept really forcefully, without coming off as erratic, or so I hope, insisting that I did not even know what they were talking about, like I've been saying all along. They were not having any of it. They kept saying, "Videotape doesn't lie, man. You want to see the tape before you lock yourself into another lie. The jury's gonna eat this up." Jury? I nearly crapped myself. I don't even turn right at red lights half the time. Plus, you had video all this time. You were grilling me to remember what happened, and you could have just shown me a video. What the duck? I knew I was in over my head at that point. A million thoughts were swirling around, and I was so overwhelmed and scared. I finally said what I should have said way back at the beginning, though I didn't say it nearly assertively enough, because I was trying to, act innocent, not seem guilty, not make things worse than they'd somehow already become. I was like, "Should I be talking to a lawyer?" And they said, "Do you want to talk to a lawyer? Did you do something that would necessitate the aid of an attorney?" And the other guy's like, "If you want a lawyer, we'll get you one, but I have to say, that does not look good on you." And I shouldn't have believed him, as my dad has now drilled into my brain. You never talk to police, only your lawyer does. But at the time I thought, yeah, I guess asking for a lawyer does make it seem like I did it. Crap. Then they showed me enhanced frames of the video and timestamps, and they're saying all this stuff. It was really a blur at that point. But one thing in particular stood out. They said something that they'd already said a time or two before, but it hadn't totally sunken in until then. They alleged, your buddies thought this would be some quick money. They thought it'd be real slick to order a pizza instead of just calling and saying bring the stuff up. At this point it had been established they thought I'd transported some large sum of ill-gotten cash into this apartment, and that we wouldn't be suspicious or we wouldn't follow up. I know you're a good guy. You didn't know what you were getting yourself into. But if you're not honest with us, we can't help you. I had told him repeatedly about the other guy who'd showed up to supposedly deliver a pizza. I even pointed him out on the footage. Unfortunately, the cameras didn't have audio, so they couldn't hear me arguing with the people in the apartment over the measly few bucks, or more importantly, hear this other guy say pizza. Because the other guy didn't have a pizza box and I did, they didn't believe me that I wasn't the pizza part of this operation. To recap, apparently what they'd uncovered from the real criminals is they were meant to take receipt of some money. The guys inside the apartment were told something like, that afternoon you'll get a pizza, to try and prevent anyone from saying anything incriminating on paper. These dumb ducks in the apartment did not understand the instructions and actually ordered a real pizza instead of just waiting for their cash delivery to show up. I'm pretty certain all that arguing I'd heard on the phone was one of the other criminals asking something to the effect of, "Are you sure you're supposed to order an actual pizza?" Because what else would they have been arguing about right then? So, once I connected all the dots, it was a matter of proving my pizza delivery was legitimate. They tried to get a record of the delivery when they talked to my boss, but we're a small shop. We only keep tickets through the end of the week, and we just sign a piece of paper confirming our tip amount every night. These guys wouldn't have factored in since they didn't pay. I didn't have anyone but the criminals to corroborate my story, and there was nothing in it for them to exonerate me, or they would have done it by now. But then I remembered. The chef. I told him all about this delivery. I begged the cops to talk to him and reminded them I'd followed them right out of the store before I'd known what this was about, so they could trust he was totally untainted. Sure enough, he recounted it exactly as I told him and told police. The stories matched near identically. The cops went through our phone logs, but these guys had called in their order from a burner, so that was of no help. I figured the chef would be enough, but after I'd been in the precinct for nearly 8 hours total, they said they were going to go ahead and hold me until they could verify I didn't go with a decoy pizza and somehow give the money another way, or until they found the real delivery guy. They never would, because they didn't believe me that he was the other guy outside of the apartment on the video without a box. I don't know if he had the cash taped to him or what, but the cops were convinced it couldn't be him because he didn't have any bag, box, or something to hold the money. Finally, realizing this was not a misunderstanding that was going to go away, all these years of watching Law and Order kicked in, and I asked for my phone call. I got my dad on the line, and he of course said, "Don't say another word," and showed up with an attorney who had me out within an hour of his arrival. I was formally cleared of all involvement the next day. Barely got an apology. None of this will show up on my record or anything, but still, you'd think they'd be a little more remorseful about what they put me through. My boss gave me a couple paydays off, having seen how serious it all was with questioning the chef and searching the phone logs and everything. I think he was just glad I wasn't an embezzler or serial murderer or otherwise a criminal, because for the longest time all they would tell him is I was involved in a situation and they needed information. So yeah, tread lightly. Don't be like me and make this your whole career. Or do if your only alternative is to be a cash mule for a crime syndicate. I'm super happy you have not worked there. The next one is titled, Karen is Racist. To get started, I in no way dress like I work anywhere when I'm off the clock. I'm typically in jeans or shorts, and one of my graphic tees, sci-fi or pagan-related, nerdy witch but nothing offensive, and boots. Now, I'm also a clumsy and can trip over a flat surface. This comes up in the story. Also, sorry for the length. So my husband and I went to a local Asian market in our city a few months ago. We wanted to stock up for the second lockdown we figured was coming from the upcoming flu season, and COVID cases have been going up in the area again. We typically enjoy a more East Asian diet than your typical American, not weabos or anything. Just found it a healthier diet, more flavorful, and I might love rice way too much. Anyway, this market is a seafood market, a large one, and smells like it again. This comes up, and they have a lot of stuff you'd not typically find in a smaller international store. We are used to being the only white folk in there a majority of the time, but the staff is amazing and super friendly. So hubby and I walk into the market, grab a cart, and we head off to get our supply of rice, noodles, real instant ramen. Not that plastic stuff marketed in American grocery stores, and juices. Hubby was looking over the various rice bag, deciding how big we wanted to go for the stocking up, and I told him I'd go to the ramen section and start looking over what they have this month. Stock doesn't stay the same necessarily, and you can find real good ramen sometimes. Anyway, looking over the selection, I grab a ramen that's in a bowl, great idea if you want less cleanup after a 10-hour shift of doing tech support. And I knock about half a dozen other packages down, like I said, clumsy. I kneel down to collect the various items on the floor to put back, and stand up to ensure the next person doesn't repeat what I did. And then she shows up, Karen. Hair, clothes, shoes, purse, jewelry, sunglasses, and overly offensive perfume. There has to be a class on this they take on how to get the uniform right. So cast is as follows. Me, RK, racist Karen. RKH, racist Karen husband. H, my husband. E, market employee. SM, store manager. Cop 1, Cop 2. As she walks up to me, I'd seen her out of the corner of my eye. She grabs me by the arm with her plastic claws and tries to spin me, but being a larger guy, I don't move easy. RK, excuse me, but I need help, and you're the only American I see working here. Me, removing my arm from her grip, ma'am, I do not work here. I'm just looking over the ramen selection. And I don't know who the F you are, but do not put your hands on me if you want to keep them. Mind you, I do not react well to be treated as a punching bag under the best of times. I am so done with people attitude most days, and I have a deep seething dislike of entitled people. I worked food service and retail for several years, as well as a janitor. Those jobs really show you who people are. RK, of course you do. I saw you stocking the shelf. And don't you dare threaten me. I'll have your job. Me? Ma'am, I knocked these over and was putting them back, like a decent human being. And you touched me first, that's assault. And why do you foul idiots always want someone's job for you being a stupid short-sighted Karen? RK, voice now shrieking in typical Karen fashion. How dare you? Where's your manager? I'll have you fired. Me? Again, you dumb Karen, I do not work here. So you can't have my non-existent job. Now, at this stage, my husband turns into the aisle behind her, and he has that look on his face of I pity whomever set him off. H, hey hun, you all right? Me? Yeah, just dealing with a wild feral Karen. RK turns to hubby. Mind your business, anti-gay slur. Now, another man turns into the aisle next to hubby, and by the look on his face, it's her husband, and he's already slumping his shoulders in defeat. Apparently, this is a regular thing for the poor guy, and I also hear someone coming up behind me. I turn, and it's an employee I'm acquainted with. She's wonderfully funny and always has a smile on her face and has a slight accent. E, is everything all right? I heard yelling. RK, yes, you insert racist Asian slur. This worker refuses to help me, assaulted me, and threatened my life. Seriously, there has to be a class at Karen you for lying on your feet. Me? F you lady? How dare you use that word? And if I wanted to hurt you, you'd already be on the floor. RKH still has defeated look. RK, must you? Again. Why do you have to do this? Me? Again? E, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. RK, not until you fire this anti-gay slur. H steps in between me and RK and uses that firm, soft tone of his that can make my blood run cold. Now look here, you dumb entitled inbred mistake. He does not work here. He then stepped a little closer to her, and I could easily guess the look on his face, because RK looked like she'd seen a ghost. Now, leave him alone, or he'll be the least of your worries. RK, again with the Karen you training, slaps my husband. E runs off, I'm guessing to get her boss. Hubby didn't flinch or anything. His military training. Me? Da fuck? I pull my husband back as RKH grabs his wife. RKH, that's enough. I told you before to not ever put your hands on other people. Me? Seriously. How many times has she done that? I'm not really surprised by this when I think back. Typical entitled Karen behavior in all honesty. E is back with SM behind her. SM, from my understanding, she's part of the owner's family and is second or third generation American. SM, what in the world is going on here? Me? Well, dumbass Karen here thought I was an employee, assaulted me and my husband, all while using a racial slur against E. RK, for her part, is so red and enraged that she actually can't speak. I never realized that was a function of a Karen. I thought they always had words for any situation. RKH, I'm so sorry for this. She is off her meds. H, obviously. She also needs a higher dosage. RKH, we'll just leave. SM, no, you will not. Not that she physically assaulted 2 customers, as well as used hate speech against an employee. RK, finds her voice, all you racial slur for Asians are all the same. Useless. No wonder this place smells so foul. You people can't even clean properly. Turns to me and hubby, and you gays are worse. Now, RK had gotten out of her husband's hold, pulled out her phone, and does the most Karen thing you can think of. She calls the police and lies about an assault on her. SM, fine, let's play your game. Turns to E. Please go meet the officers at the door and bring them here. E leaves and comes back about 5 minutes later with 2 officers in tow. Not surprising they're fast and responding. There's usually a patrol car and the clocking speeders going down the street. Now the officers don't even get a word in at all as RK goes into white woman/Karen fake, crying about how she was assaulted by me, by anti-gay slur husband, and the racial slur against Asians. The officers don't look too happy, but also unbothered by the show. I admit, this surprised me. Cop 1, RKH again. RKH, yeah, sorry. Hubby and I look at each other in surprise. Me, officer, she physically assaulted myself, my husband, and used hate speech against SM, and he also, what do you mean again? Cop 2, she's a known problem child. H, again with the firm and soft tone, and why is she allowed to run free like a feral jackal? RK tries to speak, but Cop 1 puts up his hand and silences her. Doesn't work, she goes on about how she's the victim in all this. Typical. Cop 1, would you like to press charges? Me, HSM, yes. RKH takes her call phone and purse just as Cop 2 gives her some beautiful new silver bracelets, and she loses what she has left of what sanity she had and tries to use the back of her head to hit officer in the face. Cop 2 back away out of reaction as Cop 1 pulls out his taser and puts her down. RKH puts her phone in her purse, hands it to Cop 1, pulls out his phone, and looks down at RK as Cop 2 is getting her up. That's it, I'm done. I'm calling our lawyer for a divorce. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm unsure what language RK was trying to speak as she got back on her feet, and Cop 1 and 2 escorted her out. RKH followed, looking embarrassed as can be and finally having his shoulders squared and confident. SM apologized and asked if she could give us a discount on our groceries, and we declined. We honestly were more worried about SM and E being verbally assaulted instead of what we'd had said and done to us. We're those kind of people. They both said they were fine, and E walked with us for a few minutes, and we chatted while SM went to speak with the cops. Now, fast forward to our recent court date. SM and E decided to drop the hate speech charges, but RK is banned for life from their store, as well as about a dozen others. Apparently, the community doesn't want her around causing trouble. RK plead guilty, but isn't serving jail time. She has to go to court-ordered anger management therapy and is on parole for the next 4 years. The judge apparently wasn't having any of her fake tears. She saw through it all, and I was living for it. RK was told that if she misses just one appointment for anger management and /or therapy, or her parole officer reports she isn't taking her meds, her parole will be jail time. We were also rewarded damages that RK had to pay or again, jail time. RKH was there and seemed years younger since we'd seen him. They're divorced, he has the kids, and RK has to have supervised visitations. He apologized to us for RK, saying he was just embarrassed about it all, but happy with how it turned out. He had a wicked smile when he said she deserved every bit of what she got. Update. To all the commentary Karens and those DMing me, please note the following. I and my husband both have mental health issues. His from his time in the military, mine from abuse, home, school, employment. I'm medicated and in therapy. He isn't, but has assistance from the VA in terms of disability. He's hesitant about therapy, as he's never has a positive experience with therapists, and he has said more than not that he's on enough meds as it is. We held back as much as we did, because we both recognized RK has mental health issues. We know that sometimes the demons win. I do have empathy for her, but not in the situation she created. Also, with my own mental health, I'm highly OCD, and tend to recall every detail in situations like this when I become hypervigilant with my attention. I can still recall her clothes and the clothes of my husband, RKHSM, and I have issues editing my own stories, even IRL, so they tend to go long. I'd edit this, but felt it was as short as I could get it, or as short as my OCD would allow. And being from the city I am in the Midwest, please note that people here tend to overachieve at the roles they live. When you commit to an identity, you commit without limits. This city is also committed to holding on, at all costs, to its segregation, redlining, and defining you by the neighborhood you grew up in, the high school you went to, and where you currently live. If you decide not to live by these rules, you're an outcast and seen as a non-local. I've lost family and friends by both my choices of diet and educating myself on other cultures and communities. But hey, small city, cheap cost of living, and love to have found a community of misfits that are now my family. This is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed my content, then please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and post some bear emojis in the comments.